When dealing with electrical issues in an older Crouse Hinds panel, there are several key areas to investigate. Addressing these issues systematically can help resolve the problems. One common issue is dimming lights coupled with very bright lights when a breaker is toggled. This often points to a faulty neutral connection within the panel. The solution involves turning off all breakers to ensure safety. Then, locate the neutral bus bar, typically a white or grey bar situated at the back of the panel. Carefully tighten all neutral connections to this bus bar. After this, turn on the breakers one by one, testing after each switch to see if the issue has been resolved. If the lights remain off completely when a breaker is on and the main 100 amp breaker is hard to set, a different problem is at play. A potential cause is a short circuit within the lighting circuit. To address this, first turn off all breakers once again. Remove the breaker that controls the affected light. Use a multimeter to test for continuity between the hot and neutral wires in the lighting circuit at the light fixture itself. If the multimeter indicates continuity, this confirms a short circuit. To rectify this, locate and repair the short circuit, often involving replacing damaged wires or fittings. A hard-to-set main breaker suggests issues with loose connections, corrosion, or a faulty breaker. Start by turning off the main breaker. Next, remove the main breaker from the panel to allow for inspection. Carefully inspect the breaker for any signs of damage or corrosion. If damage is evident, replace the breaker. Clean the breaker contacts and terminals using a specialized contact cleaner to ensure good conductivity. Reinstall the breaker into the panel, ensuring all connections are thoroughly tightened. The presence of aluminum wiring connected to copper wiring with wire nuts requires special attention. Aluminum wiring presents a safety hazard if connections are not made correctly. When joining aluminum and copper wires, always use a special anti-oxidizing paste or a dielectric compound. This prevents corrosion and ensures a stable connection. Tighten all connections securely to prevent overheating and potential fire hazards. Given the intricacies and potential hazards associated with the electrical work, it is prudent to consult with a qualified electrician for further guidance, especially if you are not comfortable with the procedures. Always prioritize safety. Before undertaking any work on electrical equipment, always turn off the electricity to the circuit you are working on. If the electrical panel is old, consider having it inspected and possibly upgraded by a qualified electrician to meet current safety standards. Replace any faulty breakers that cannot be repaired to maintain the panel's integrity. Ensure that all wiring connections are made according to the National Electrical Code, or NEC, and are secure to prevent future issues. When dealing with aluminum wiring, consider using copper aluminum connectors specifically designed for this purpose, marked with ALCU, which provide a more reliable and safer connection than standard wire nuts. Additionally, consider the age of the panel itself. Older panels might have components that are nearing the end of their lifespan, increasing the risk of failure. If the panel is significantly outdated, replacing it with a modern panel that meets current safety standards could be a worthwhile investment. Be aware of the opacity of the wiring and breakers. Ensure that the breakers are appropriately sized for the wiring they protect. Overloading circuits can lead to overheating and potential fire hazards. Refer to NEC Table 310.15b16 for proper opacity ratings. Regularly inspect the electrical panel for signs of overheating, such as discoloration or melting. If you notice any such signs, immediately turn off the affected circuits and consult with a qualified electrician. Grounding is crucial for electrical safety. Verify that the grounding system is properly installed and functioning correctly. This includes checking the ground wire connections to the grounding electrode system, such as a ground rod or water pipe. Remember that working with electricity can be dangerous if not done properly. If you're unsure about any aspect of the work, it's always best to seek assistance from a qualified electrician. They have the knowledge and experience to ensure the work is done safely and in compliance with all applicable codes and regulations. If you are testing for continuity, you are testing to see if there is a complete electrical path from one point to another point. When testing for continuity with a multimeter, ensure the circuit is energized. Continuity is often used to determine if a fuse is blown, a wire is broken, or a switch is closed. When working with electrical panels, wear appropriate personal protective equipment, including safety glasses and insulated gloves. Avoid wearing any metallic jewelry that could come into contact with live circuits. Always use insulated tools specifically designed for electrical work. These tools provide an extra layer of protection against electric shock. Maintain a clean and organized work area when working on electrical panels. Keep all tools and materials within easy reach and avoid clutter that could create tripping hazards. If you are unsure about the proper wiring configuration, consult the electrical panel's wiring diagram or seek guidance from a qualified electrician. Incorrect wiring can lead to serious electrical problems and safety hazards. When replacing breakers, use only breakers that are specifically designed for use in the electrical panel. Using the wrong type of breaker can compromise the panel's safety and performance. Always follow the manufacturer's instructions when installing or replacing electrical components. The instructions provide important information about proper installation techniques and safety precautions. When working with aluminum wiring, use a wire brush to clean the aluminum conductors before making connections. This helps to remove any oxidation that may have formed on the surface of the aluminum, ensuring a good electrical connection. After making connections with aluminum wiring, apply a liberal coating of antioxidant compound to the connections. This helps to prevent further oxidation and corrosion. Regularly inspect the connections between aluminum and copper wiring for signs of loosening or corrosion. If you notice any problems, tighten the connections and reapply the antioxidant compound. Consider using a torque screwdriver to tighten the connections to the proper torque specification. This helps to ensure that the connections are tight enough to provide a good electrical connection, but not so tight that they damage the wiring or connectors. When working with older electrical panels, be aware of the potential presence of asbestos insulation. If you suspect that asbestos is present, take appropriate precautions to avoid inhaling the fibers. Consult with a qualified asbestos abatement contractor for guidance on how to safely remove or encapsulate the asbestos. If you are planning to add new circuits to the electrical panel, make sure that the panel has enough capacity to handle the additional load. If the panel is already full, you may need to upgrade to a larger panel. Be sure to follow all applicable codes and regulations when adding new circuits to the electrical panel. This includes obtaining the necessary permits and inspections. If you are unsure about any aspect of the work, it's always best to seek assistance from a qualified electrician. They have the knowledge and experience to ensure the work is done safely and in compliance with all applicable codes and regulations. Periodically check the tightness of all connections in the electrical panel, even if you haven't noticed any problems. Loose connections can lead to overheating and potential fire hazards. Use a non-contact voltage tester to check for the presence of voltage before working on any electrical circuit. This helps to ensure that the circuit is energized and safe to work on. Never work on electrical circuits while standing on a wet surface or while wearing wet clothing. Water is a good conductor of electricity and can increase the risk of electric shock. Avoid using extension cords or power strips to power high wattage appliances or equipment. These devices can overload the circuit and create a fire hazard. If you need to power a high wattage appliance or equipment, install a dedicated circuit with the appropriate wiring and breaker size. When replacing fuses, use only fuses of the correct size and type. Using the wrong size or type of fuse can damage the electrical system and create a fire hazard. If you are unsure about the correct fuse size or type, consult the electrical panel's wiring diagram or seek guidance from a qualified electrician. Consider installing arc fault circuit interrupters or a size to protect against electrical fires. A size are designed to detect arc faults, which are a common cause of electrical fires, and to shut off the circuit before a fire can start. A size are required by code in many areas for new construction and renovations. If you are planning to install a new electrical panel, consider installing a surge protector to protect against voltage surges. Voltage surges can damage sensitive electronic equipment such as computers, televisions, and appliances. A surge protector can help to prevent this damage. Regularly test the operation of ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCIs, to ensure that they are functioning properly. GFCIs are designed to protect against electric shock by detecting ground faults and shutting off the circuit. GFCIs are required by code in many areas for outlets located near water sources such as bathrooms, kitchens, and outdoor areas. If you have any concerns about the safety of your electrical system, consult with a qualified electrician. They can inspect your electrical system and recommend any necessary repairs or upgrades. Aluminum wiring requires more attention because it expands and contracts more than copper wiring when heated and cooled, leading to loose connections over time. Because of this, it is also more prone to oxidation, which can increase resistance at the connections, further exacerbating the issue. Using the correct type of connector and antioxidant compound is crucial. CO/ALR connectors are specifically designed for aluminum to copper connections, and they provide a more reliable connection than standard wire nuts. Always use an antioxidant compound listed for use with aluminum wiring, such as Nolox or Penetrox, to prevent corrosion and ensure good electrical connection. One additional consideration is the use of pigtailing. Pigtailing involves connecting a short length of copper wire to the aluminum wire using an approved connector, and then connecting the copper wire to the breaker or device. This can help to improve the reliability of the connection and reduce the risk of overheating. Before working on any electrical panel, make sure you have a clear understanding of the circuit you are working on. Map out the circuits in your panel and label each breaker accordingly. This will make it easier to identify and isolate circuits when troubleshooting or making repairs. Also, keep a flashlight handy when working on electrical panels, especially in dimly lit areas. A flashlight will help you to see the wiring and components more clearly and avoid making mistakes. If you are working on an older electrical panel, be aware of the potential for outdated wiring and components. Older panels may not meet current safety standards and may require upgrades to ensure safety. Consider having a qualified electrician inspect your electrical panel and recommend any necessary upgrades. When working with electrical panels, it is important to maintain a safe working distance from live electrical parts. Avoid touching any exposed wires or terminals, and use insulated tools to prevent electric shock. If you are unsure about how to safely work on electrical panels, seek guidance from a qualified electrician. They have the knowledge and experience to ensure the work is done safely and in compliance with all applicable codes and regulations. When replacing breakers, make sure to use the correct type and size of breaker for the circuit. Using the wrong breaker can damage the electrical system and create a fire hazard. If you are unsure about the correct breaker type and size, consult the electrical panel's wiring diagram or seek guidance from a qualified electrician. When making connections with wiring, make sure to use the correct size and type of wire connector. Using the wrong wire connector can result in a loose or unreliable connection, which can lead to overheating and potential fire hazards. Always follow the manufacturer's instructions when installing wire connectors. When working with aluminum wiring, it is especially important to use the correct type of wire connector and antioxidant compound. Aluminum wiring is more prone to corrosion and loosening than copper wiring, so it is essential to use materials that are specifically designed for use with aluminum wiring. When making connections with aluminum wiring, be sure to tighten the connections to the proper torque specification. Over-tightening the connections can damage the wiring, while under-tightening the connections can result in a loose or unreliable connection. Consult the manufacturer's instructions for the proper torque specification. When working with electrical panels, it is important to keep the panel clean and free of debris. Dust, dirt, and other debris can accumulate in the panel and create a fire hazard. Periodically clean the panel with a vacuum cleaner or a soft brush to remove any debris. Also, make sure that the panel door is properly closed and secured to prevent unauthorized access. Electrical safety is paramount when dealing with these systems.